Welcome back, everybody, to the Below Average Joe's MMA show. Today, we are here to talk about the weekend that was UFC Charlotte, Bellator 296. My name is Noah Baker. I'm one half of this hosting duo. I am coming to you from a second floor apartment in the middle of Ohio. And the man to my right, he's a fellow Ohioan, down south,
Yeah.
a southerner, if you will.
Yeah, yeah.
Dominic, how are you doing? How was your Mother's Day? Happy Mother's Day to you, Dominic, and hopefully you got lovely your
Mm.
lovely mother something nice for this special day. So how was it celebrating it with her and Mama and whatnot?
It was you love Mamaw. That's a story for another day on the show. But it was a great day. It was a great weekend and a great day. Got some yard games in. I'm going to be asking you about those later in closing statements. But had some fun, had some good food, quality time with family. Don't get much better than that. And I'm finishing off my Sunday in the studio with my other half, some would say, in Noah Baker. It's tremendous stuff. And I know you had family again, back to back. They couldn't get enough of you, Noah. How was
hmm
it?
It was good. My mom and stepdad came up. My mom was actually here the weekend before with my sister and her boyfriend, so mom just can't stay away.
Mm,
She just loves the apartment so much. I'm just
yeah.
such a fun guy to be around, I guess, that she can't
Hmm.
get enough. But no, it was really good to have her and my stepdad here. Took them to one of the restaurants in my complex and paid for their dinner because I'm just a good guy. I mean, I
Hmm.
might have told Rob that this was an advance on his Father's Day dinner, but we won't mention that.
Yeah, yeah.
No, but it was really good to have him here. We watched. I had seen it in theaters, but we watched the Elvis movie. My mom, a
Mm.
massive Elvis fan growing up, and obviously still is now. But I too had a similar upbringing where my first real love in music was Elvis. So
Yeah.
we got to watch that movie. They loved it. My mom, though, there's this thing about her, man, that I just it annoys the shit out of me, Dominic. I love my mother. Happy Mother's Day to her, by the way.
That was a great sentence.
But hopefully she's not listening because I'm
Yeah.
about to bring up
Roaster.
something that yeah. It is impossible to put on a movie with her without her falling asleep at some point.
Ah, okay. Okay.
And there was about 20 minutes left in the movie. This is a biopic about Elvis.
Hmm.
We know how it ends,
Yeah.
theoretically.
Yeah.
The man's no longer with us,
Right.
and she fell asleep at that part.
Mm.
My stepdad, however, followed suit about 10 minutes later and
Okay.
fell asleep. And then my mom woke up with about 5 minutes left, so she kind of got to see the very end. And then my stepdad was just out. She woke him up, and she goes like, "Rob, the movie's over." And he goes, "What movie were we watching?" I was like, "What the hell?" I said, "This man got knocked the fuck out." Um, but yeah, man, I every time I my dad's done that a lot growing up. I'm a big movie watcher, and
You are. Yeah.
I hate when we all agree to watch a movie and then someone falls asleep. I'm like, really? I'm like, we all had to agree on this movie to watch it. That's always a big thing. My mom hates rewatching movies.
My mom couldn't be more opposite. She
Really,
watches movies all the Yeah.
me and Rob are always wanting to watch some funny comedy like
Yeah.
Talladega Nights. We put on Happy Gilmore for a little bit before we went to dinner. But if we're doing like a family movie night, like Vacation, I swear, none of us nearly talked the rest of the Vacation last summer because me and Rob saw that they had the DVD in the cabin for Talladega Nights, and we're like, oh my God, we're going to put that on. And then my mom's like, oh, what are we doing? We watching a movie? And then my sister comes in, oh, we're watching a movie. And I said, yeah, we were going to put on Talladega Nights. And she's like, oh, I've seen that like
A
15
thousand times.
times.
Yeah.
And she's like, let's watch something else. And I'm like, so we
Ruined
had
my
to
fun.
sit there and try to agree on a movie. And
Uh-huh.
she's like, "Oh, that sounds good." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, 50 Shades Part 74. That sounds real good." Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Dude, okay. So I have to give a mom pet peeve of movies as well then, because my mom has one. Happy Mother's Day again to all the
Yeah.
wonderful mothers. Okay. Anytime we're watching like a brand new movie, whether it's at home on like Prime or something, or we go to the movies, she's always asking questions about what's going to like
Oh,
what is
yeah.
happening. And I'm like, I don't know. because this is
Yeah.
also my first time seeing the movie. And that's like the biggest thing that she does when we're seeing a brand new movie is asking us what's going on or what's going to come next. Why did this happen? I'm like, I don't know. I'm watching this for the first time with you as well. So
It's like,
there's that.
listen, Junior, if you watch, you may just
Yeah.
find out.
Yes, exactly.
Your mom, big question asker in general, by the way. She
True.
asks a lot of questions.
Very curious. Yeah.
Sometimes when she's asking, you don't know what the end goal is here. You're like, is there a goal to this? Are you trying to get something out of me? But no, yeah, happy fucking Mother's Day, I guess.
Yeah.
But to all the other mothers watching, perhaps, sup. But no. If you,
I'm sure that's a large part of our demographic.
yeah, right. Our 3% female audience. Shout out to them.
Yeah.
But Dominic, I think we're here to go over a little MMA, so maybe we should get right into that if you don't mind.
Speaking of mothers.
UFC. You know what? I didn't actually think of that when I put this as the headline. God,
You're good.
So fun. I'm too good. I'm like asleep at the wheel, and I'm still getting us home. Main event of UFC Charlotte. It was a Biggie Boy main event. However, it was Biggie Boy who fell, Dominic, as Jailton Almeida makes good on being a minus 500 favorite. He submits Rozenstruik in the first round, 3 minutes, 43 seconds in. Pretty quick here. If we're going over the action, 3 minutes, 43 seconds, not a ton. Rozenstruik came out real fast, right immediately, tried to throw some real big shots, tried to catch Almeida off guard maybe. Didn't necessarily work. Almeida shoots for a takedown, actually doesn't get it. Then you kind of get just a little bit of feeling out on the feet, and then Almeida gives for the second takedown and gets it with ease. And as soon as he got that, I'm watching it with my mom and Rob, who do not watch very often, but I was like, yeah, this is over, I think. I think this is over, and it was. So let's talk about Jailton Almeida, Dominic, because we both have been very much upfront about how high we are on this guy. And going into Saturday, I believe you said a win here, maybe 2 more fights, and then we're looking at a title fight for him. I said as much as 1 more, and I'd be willing to give him that title shot. It kind of depends on the matchups, of course, but I could see, based off of where we think they may try to, shoot him up the ladder from there. But instead of re-asking you that question, I want to ask you, of the heavyweights ranked above where Almeida will likely be on Tuesday, which matchup is the biggest test for him moving forward? And I'm going to force you to not pick John Jones here, and dare I say even Stipe, because those two will likely not be in that mix by the time Almeida's probably reaching for a heavyweight title fight.
Well, I think I have to go with this answer. And traditionally, this is the answer for a lot of the heavyweights where you ask who the hardest matchup would be. I think it's Curtis Blades, more than likely. But, this time around, it's not because it's a grappler in Curtis facing a striker. It is a grappler in Curtis versus a grappler in Almeida. And I really am just curious on how a matchup between those two would play out. If Curtis could keep it on the feet, Curtis has showed that he's starting to get a little bit better. Obviously, last fight aside, he's looked better on the feet throughout his career. And Jailton, we still haven't got to see a ton of what he can do on the feet. So I think on all that would be definitely at least the most intriguing, hardest match. Maybe not the most intriguing, but I think that's the hardest stylistic clash, or the one where I at least have the most questions. I think that's a good way for me to put it.
Yeah, Curtis Blades is always that guy who is a great litmus test. I don't know if I can always say he ends up being the toughest challenge, because you see Pavlovich kind of made quick work of him. But I know I've said that before, though. I've always said Curtis Blades would be the toughest matchup for this guy. I think I even said at one point he'd be a tough matchup for John Jones, to debut at heavyweight. I think a better way to illustrate that is just to say he is a perfect litmus test. If you can smoke Blades, that probably says a lot about where you stand in that top of the heap, almost like a gatekeeper for the elite, if you will. So there is a point to that. I'm a little surprised you went that direction, and maybe I shouldn't be, but obviously Blades having the amazing wrestling that he has could negate Almeida's willingness to go to the ground and try to look for a submission. But if that fight does stay standing, I don't have a ton of faith in Blades to get the upper hand over
Yeah.
Almeida. Now, it's tough to tell, but obviously, Blades, for what he's improved on in his output offensively, it feels like his head movement and his actual, IQ on the defensive side of striking has not gotten that much better. And ultimately, he can't quite take the heaviest of punches from some of these top guys at heavyweight. Now, does Almeida carry the power of a Pavlovich, of a Ngannou, of a Lewis? Probably not. Probably a step below that. He's a little lighter, guy who fought at light heavyweight, but such an athletic freak,
Yeah.
so fast that it kind of all hits the same at a
Yeah.
certain point. And to me, I do think I'm going to say the toughest matchup might be Pavlovich, if I'm being honest. And
Yeah, that was the only other one I was debating.
so
Yeah.
if this was before the Blades fight, I may have gone a different direction. But seeing how well Pavlovich was able to, I mean, he didn't really have to stop many takedowns, but he did such a good job of forcing Blades on his back foot, making him uncomfortable, not even
Yeah.
really allowing him to so much as look for a takedown until he was already hurt and he had to kind
Yeah.
of shoot for a desperate attempt. So for Almeida, who I'm still not 100% sure how advanced he is in his actual technique on the feet. Like, it's been kind of limited what we've seen, but we know that he has the athletic gifts to make it work. But when you're
Yeah.
going up against a guy in Pavlovich who also can match some of those gifts, he is massive. He's strong as shit. He's
Yeah.
one of the most powerful guys in the division and has great boxing. You would at least have to be cautious of those weapons. So if Almeida could get that fight to the ground, it would probably be tough for Pavlovich. But I think Pavlovich gives him a tougher time as far as taking that fight to the ground than Rozenstruik did here on Saturday.
And hopefully, knock on wood, we get to see both of those match up in Jailton's future. That's what I want.
Yeah, I mean, do you kind of feel like that Blades fight could be the next one for him? That seems almost. I don't know. Do UFC kind of like to do both guys either going in on wins or going in off losses, kind of match up with one another? But it kind of feels like Blades is teetering on falling out of like a true title contender. Still elite, but not maybe he might have missed his real last chance at pushing for a title shot with that loss to Pavlovich. So
Yeah.
is he kind of the guy to welcome Almeida to like top 5 territory?
See, while I think that's his toughest matchup up there, his next fight I think will be who he called for, and that's tied to Ivasa. I
Sorry,
think he will get
I
that
didn't
fight.
even hear it. I turned it off as soon as he got his hand raised because we went to go eat. So I didn't hear him
Yeah.
call that for that.
So he wants Ty, and I'm gonna say that also because in the post-fight presser, shout out to Aaron Bronstetter. He does these threads every Saturday night of Dana's
Yep.
speeches, and it really helps out a lot if you don't get to go on YouTube and stuff. And he was asked about Almeida, and he said that he thinks they can have something really, really special with this kid. You know how Dana calls everybody kid, even though Jalton's like 32, 33. But he said that, and I'm thinking, okay, well, you're seeing something special. He called for Ty, who's one of your biggest stars in this division. But how much more can you get out of Ty being a big name? I think they give Jailton what he wants. I think he fights Bam Bam next and gets a big time opportunity to essentially, with a win over Ty, it breaks him into somewhat of the casual fan base, and I think that's what the UFC wants from him now.
That's a tough fight for Tuivasa too.
It's tough.
That's
It's
a
tough.
very tough fight. But I guess that's what you could say for pretty much everybody that has to go up against Almeida. I think he
Yeah.
is special. I mean,
I think he's going to be a
don't-
champion.
I don't think there's a guy, even including potentially someone like John Jones, considering where he's at age-wise,
Yeah.
and like Stipe for same reasons. I don't think there's anybody ranked above him that's going to want to fight him.
No. Not at all.
But Dana gave him that seal of that stamp of this kid is special or could be special.
Yeah.
You got to think they're going to push one of these guys to take that matchup. And they'll probably have to throw some extra cheddar on it, maybe make it a main event. But
Yeah.
Almeida's now, he's here to stay, man. This guy, I'll tell you what makes it also special, Dominic, is he has the threat of being a 2 division champion. He's doing
He
this
was
at heavyweight.
231 pounds.
Yeah. And, I kind of like it. Like, so often we see these guys teeter. I mean, Stipe was kind of
The only other one,
the
really.
exception, not the rule. But so often these heavyweights want to stick to that 265 or they're cutting to 265. Almeida being a little bit on the lighter side I kind of like it. I'm not sure if it benefits him, but it reminds me of like Mike Tyson, who was weighing like 220 or whatever
Smaller
he
than
was
the rest.
back in
Yeah.
or 210, whatever it was back in the 80s, 90s. So I like it. It feels a little throwback in that way, but he is very much in play to go down, go up. He's in that Hamzat range where it's a guy that, and he doesn't have any of the weight missing issues kind of stacking up on him. So this is a guy who could be that type of 2 division threat. And it just all depends on where he wants to go. Who knows? Maybe he doesn't want to make that cut anymore. Maybe he plans to keep building some mass and just make that legacy at heavyweight. But one matchup we didn't mention, Dominic, Tom Aspinall, if he's able to get through Marcin Tybura. I do believe – now, hold on. I do believe that the UFC probably don't do that fight as like a number one.
Don't do it to me. Don't do it to me.
You got to think they're going to try to separate those guys and potentially have them meet up for a title in the future.
Yeah.
But that is a matchup where the timing would almost make sense because Aspinall is going to be fighting here in a couple months. Tuivasa, we kind of expect to maybe see maybe in Paris or something like last year, come in like September if that's what they end up doing. That feels like it may not be in the cards to get. I don't know how quick Jailton made such quick work. He may want to get right back in there. That's how he is, and doesn't have to cut obviously. So a fight with Tuivasa in September, that might be the timing we're looking for here.
Doesn't it feel? And I know I've kind of said my things about heavyweight right now, but doesn't it at least feel semi-fresh to have some guy, a Pavlovich, an Aspinall, an Almeida in the heavyweight division? It feels like it needs it right now,
Oh,
we need more in the back half for sure, but this is a good start, I think.
100%. When you get outside the top 15, it is not
There's nobody.
great. But as far as these guys that are on their way up, we unfortunately, it feels like with Dawkins, it feels like he's kind of ran into a wall a little bit where we might have been pushing him too much too soon. But with Almeida, with Aspinall, I still think Tuivasa is a lot of fun. Pavlovich is obviously the real deal.
Yeah,
I'm happy that we're set up for when John Jones and Stipe, if they fight in MSG and they both walk away, I actually think the division moves along pretty nicely after that.
Yes, it absolutely does.
Unlike when John moved away from light heavyweight and you kind of were...
They played hot potato.
Nobody really felt like...
Yeah.
They felt like they were a champion because John Jones wasn't there. I feel like you have guys like Pavlovich, like Aspinall, like Almeida, who it would feel more like, no, Jones left because he probably wasn't. I mean, he may not have been able to take on those guys at his age and whatnot.
I mean, people very much view those three guys that you just said as future champions. That's a good problem to have.
That's a very good problem to have, yeah. So with that, we will move on to the rest of UFC Charlotte. Some surprising takeaways here, Dominic. Let's talk about the co-main event. I'll kind of start there. Not the fight that I thought we were going to get. I did mention kind of being concerned. Ultimately, Johnny Walker gets the unanimous decision win over Anthony Smith. If you had told me this fight was going to a decision, though, Dominic, I thought we were going to be seeing Anthony Smith kind of control this fight and that the Johnny Walker that showed up against someone like Thiago Santos was going to be showing up here. But instead, what we got was... it sort of felt like, Dominic, that Anthony Smith just didn't look right here to me. And
not at all.
To me, though, it feels more concerning than just like a tough night at the office. It kind of feels like maybe, I don't know how much he has left.
And it seemed that way for him. He was he took his gloves off. He said he was kind of just debating things. He needs to go back and kind of look at his career, what he's feeling, and the performance showed that, I think, very much. Johnny fought smart. I'll say he fought smart. He had a great leg kick game that he found a lot of success with. He landed a couple big shots that dropped Anthony in the first round. But again, I don't come away from this fight thinking, oh, Johnny Walker's back. You know what I mean? And I'm not going away with anything positive to say for Anthony. And I love that guy. I fucking love when Return of the
Yeah, I
Mac
know.
starts playing and he comes out, Noah. So it was a bit of a stinker of a fight. And
Started out
I,
strong. First
it
round was
started
pretty
very
fun.
strong. And I was like, I was hoping. And this was a question I asked you, though, like, what really is at stake? And you kind of didn't really know how to answer it. And I was hoping, well, the fight can play out. And then on Monday, we'll be like, okay, here's something we can go with. I don't have it. That kind of sucks.
So that's interesting because, I was going to ask you, but you kind of answered it, about this Johnny Walker hype train, right? Going into the fight, I mentioned with the win, in terms of ranking, in terms of his positioning in the light heavyweight division, he would be probably even further at this point than he was when his value was considered at its highest going into that fight with Corey Anderson way back when.
Yeah.
As far as the hype train being back, do I necessarily look at Johnny Walker and go, that guy's going to be a champion? No.
Yeah.
But the way he fought here, I thought he fought pretty well.
Very
And
smart
it
for
did
him.
seem like the overwhelming takeaway felt like Anthony Smith just really wasn't fighting like a very good light heavyweight anymore here. But his leg work, he obviously butchered that leg of Anthony Smith, used his reach very well. There was some people that were like really questioning why he never got a finish here because it felt like Anthony Smith was done in round 3. And I
Yeah.
know Dominic, you might have been one of them because you did have that as a
Yeah.
bet. But I did see a lot of people go in that direction. Also, the Anthony Smith haters were chirping, man. They were having
Yeah,
a
we should have
field day
expected
with
that,
this
huh?
stuff. Man, I
Yeah.
couldn't believe. Man, they were going hard. Like I know we talked about. We'd had a clip before, like we didn't get the hate. But
Yeah.
man, I saw it even more than I ever have after this fight. It was very. I don't know. I just didn't like seeing
Yeah.
it. But for Johnny Walker, it does feel like he's sort of against the odds and kind of out of nowhere, he's sort of back, like in a weird
In
way.
yeah.
And I'm not as high on him as I was when he was fighting Corey Anderson. And we thought, and not that I necessarily thought he was going to be the guy to take out John Jones, but he did feel like a real legitimate prospect. Now obviously a few years have passed. He's had some losses. He's obviously lost to the champion of the division, Jamal Hill, in very quick, crazy, flashy fashion. But what I worry about him is what kind of matchup they give him next, Dominic, because you know what matchup I think they might give him?
The return of Rakic.
Well, that's a good one, but no, that's
Oh.
not the direction I was going. I'll tell it like this. I don't know if this is the matchup they will give him next. The Rakic fight might make sense. A fight he should avoid more than any other, more than a rematch with Jamal Hill, is being the guy that welcomes Alex Pereira to light heavyweight.
Oh, I saw people saying he should do that.
I can't think of a more nightmare matchup for Johnny
Mm.
Walker than
Yeah.
Alex Pereira.
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
wouldn't be good.
that, and that's why again, that feels like a nightmare matchup. Jamal Hill, sure, I don't expect that fight to go that much differently a second time. Maybe
Yuri.
he could. How would he hold up? Yuri. Yuri would be an interesting one, but I would still favor Yuri in that fight. But outside of him, like, could he be like someone like Blachowicz, Rakic? Rakic is damn good.
I
He's a
don't
guy.
know, man.
Yeah,
Like,
it's tough. Like I feel like Johnny Walker has reached his ceiling almost, and
yeah.
and that's great. But I don't know how much further he can get, and especially in this division, Dominic, where the challengers are kind of lined up. You have a fresh champion in Jamal Hill. You have Yuri Prohaska, who was the sitting champion, got injured, had to relinquish the title. Like, Johnny Walker he's probably going to be ranked 5th on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And he feels legitimately like if they were to give someone a title shot, he would be like the 6th guy to get it or the 5th guy to get it. So there's just he's gonna obviously have to take another fight to even hope for a chance at a title fight, and I just don't love a lot of these matchups ahead for him.
Yeah, if he were to come out and beat one of them, then maybe I'd kind of go back on that
Mhm.
hype a little, but I don't think any of those are good matchups. I don't even think Jan Blachowicz is that good of a
Mm.
matchup. I mean, Jan's older, gonna be a little
Right.
bit slower, obviously, but stylistically, man, Yuri, Ankalaev,
Yeah, I
Blachowicz,
forgot about
Rakic.
Ankalaev. That's a bad
I
matchup
mean,
too.
damn, dude. I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do with him next.
Yeah, but a good win for him
Yeah.
nonetheless. Dominic, if you don't mind, since I have the question written out here, I'll talk about set up Ian Machado Gary's big
Oh
moment
man.
here. He got the head kick knockout win over Daniel Rodriguez in the first round. Are
Yeah.
you kidding me?
Yeah.
I mean, I totally did not see this coming. I mean, I guess in a way, I sort of called it in a way. I was so in love with Rodriguez at the
Yeah.
price that I hated it.
Yeah.
But I definitely did not foresee this kind of knockout this quick in the fight when you take how durable that dog mentality that Daniel Rodriguez has built for himself, as talented as he's shown to be, and where Ian Gary, limitless potential, but has yet to really have that complete performance. Dominic, we got that complete performance on Saturday. And he called the shot. He literally said that what he was going to knock him out with. I mean, absolutely insane that he called that. Shout out to Pete Carroll for getting that on his podcast. And
Sounds like
my
another
question,
Irishman, doesn't it, Noah?
yeah, no, I mean those comparisons are only going to get louder from here. He did call out Neil Magny after the
Yeah.
fight, and I saw you had put that tweet out, kind of asking people if they thought that might be the good matchup to do next for him. What do you think of it, Dom? Do you think that's the right next fight for Ian Machado Gary?
So first off, let's talk about this plan too, because it got a lot of traction over the weekend. His
Mm.
plan, his 6 fight plan. Okay, this was the first one. He wants 2 top 15. Well, here's number 15 right there. Then he wants another one. Two between 10 and 5. Two between 5 and 1. And God, it's giving me kind of Tom Aspinall vibes. Tom was kind of
Mm.
wanting to just fight everybody, make sure no stones were left unturned, no questions left when you get that inevitable title shot. Speaking for Tom more so, even though I think Ian might get to a title shot now the way he looked last night. So I just think that's really cool when people approach it that way. Now, to the fight with Neil Magny, sure. And I know Megan said this to him that Magny has a fight booked already with Phil Rowe, yada, yada, yada. He said he doesn't care. He said he still would want to fight Magny. He said Neil Magny's a guy that has always fought everybody. He's been the perfect gatekeeper for a fighter to try and break into the top 10. And I couldn't agree more. So I'm okay with that fight. Are there other names that I think intrigue me more? Like if he fought, like even for fought Chiesa, for example, or a Luque sitting at number 10, like, yeah, that would still be cool. Obviously, Luque's booked up still, too. So I'm fine with it. And I just love that plan and that mental state that he's in right now. Now, I love when fighters do that. Give me your thoughts. Do you like Magny? Do you like the 6 fight agenda?
Yeah, I mean, if that's the fight he really wants, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
He does have that matchup booked with Phil Rowe. You mentioned Luque, who's booked with RDA, at least as of now. That fight's
Well,
still
yeah.
happening, but we're kind of believing it could be off. So Luque is definitely that's a very interesting option, Dominic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How about a guy? I don't think he ever had another matchup. A guy who lost the fight not too long ago, Michael Chiesa, would be kind of an
I
interesting
think it would be
matchup. A
cool.
really good wrestler. Uh, Again, how are the UFC going to kind of advance him? You feel like they may try to avoid those kind of matchups that could expose that kind of weak. I don't know if that's even a weakness on Gary, but
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
won't know until he sees it. Until we see it, it feels like Magny and Luque wouldn't necessarily be the type to expose that kind of flaw if it's there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's what they did with Connor, right? They pushed him up. The only reason he fought a guy like Chad Mendez was because of the injury to Aldo. Before that, he had not fought a guy who could really take him to the ground and dominate him with the wrestling. And we saw once he did go up against it, it gave him trouble. But ultimately, he was able to still get the job done, and the rest is history. Biggest star of all time. But
Yeah.
um, Chiesa would be an interesting one, a veteran guy who's been there, done that, and
Mm-hmm.
it does seem interesting, Dominic. It seems quicker than I thought it would that we're talking about these kind of matchups for Ian Machado Garry, and I have to give him props for that because he's been super confident the entire time, even when, like I said, not every performance before this one, there was something you could at least
Something.
nitpick.
Yeah.
I mean, the Song Cannot Fight was a masterclass, except for getting
Yeah.
dropped, which
Yeah.
is a big exception because getting dropped means you're hurt and
Mm-hmm.
you're on the ropes a little bit. But ultimately, I still stood by that was a fantastic performance. It was kind of what I needed to see. But before that, he had not necessarily had that complete performance. I know everybody's going to probably be like, what about Jordan Williams? He was losing that entire first round. I get it. He got the knockout blow when he did. Good on him. I'm just saying, you were waiting for, okay, this guy obviously has the potential. He obviously talks the talk. He has that built in little story comparison to Connor. It was just a matter of kind of seeing him showcase it. And here against Daniel Rodriguez, it was the perfect opponent to do that to.
Yeah.
For Daniel Rodriguez, Dominic, this is once again another alarming kind of setback, I guess. That's through two in a row, back to back.
Yeah.
He did lose to Neil Magny, which is kind of also makes it make sense for Ian to fight Neil
Yeah.
Magny because he beat D Rod. But even the win before that against the Leech didn't feel all that convincing. So for D Rod, it feels like he needs to go back to the drawing board, maybe take some time off, and hopefully come back a little bit more complete or something. I don't know what's missing because he looked so just good and focused back when he fought Kevin Lee. I mean, here he nearly missed weight. He had to weigh in
Yeah.
the second time to make it. That made it very funny when the night before Ian Machado Garry making pizza. Was it pizza? And then,
Pizza and weed, I think.
weed, yeah, yeah. So that made that pretty funny when that was going down. But obviously, glad he ended up making weight. It's just for a guy like D Rod, who probably won't get a ton of discussion during this fight. Everybody's gonna be talking about the Ian Garry side, which is fair. But since we've been kind of guys that have been high on him for a while, it's just a little disappointing to see him sort of kind of tail off. It feels like at this point.
Yeah, and he's getting older. I think 36 or 37. He was number 15,
Wow.
so now he's going to drop out. Like, I don't know. I don't know what he wants to do. He seems still game. You're not going to find
Mm.
many more like real fighters in this game like D-Rod. So take some time away though. I will see him back and being another fun scrap. It's just like what are the matchups after this type of
Yeah,
loss is the
and
thing.
again, not everybody, it's very rare to be a champion in this game. It's very
Yeah.
rare to compete for a title in this game.
Yeah.
It is not. He has already been a massive success in his career.
Oh yeah.
I'm just saying this was a guy that was after the Kevin Lee win. You started to wonder, not necessarily that he could get that high, but I thought he might have been able to get higher than where he seems to have gotten. I'm talking like top 10 territory, and because of that, my own uh, perception, my own expectations have been sort of let down. I mean, that's obviously my own problem there. So
No,
shout
but
out
I
to
see what you're
D-Rod. But
saying.
yeah.
Yeah.
Next fight, Dominic. What do you want to go from here?
I think we just go one more down because Carlos Ulberg, man, is a fucking problem right now at light heavyweight,
Yeah.
man. I mean,
Yeah.
this dude trains with Izzy and City Kickboxing, and you see it when he fights. He won on the Contender, came in and debuted against Kennedy Nzechukwu, was winning that fight, then got really, really tired and got knocked out in the third round. So it was like,
Yeah, it's a crazy fight. Yeah.
what's kind of gonna go on? And then he's just looked so good ever since. Fabio Sharon, I mean, say what you want about that fight, it was kind of boring, but he is really, really high level in terms of striking. He's 32, so hitting his prime years right now. In a division that desperately needs. We have a couple of divisions like that right now in the
Yeah.
UFC, but light heavyweight's one of them that would fit that mold. I think they need new faces. They need young talent. He's one of them. And I think he absolutely will likely fight like a, Khalil Roundtree or a Dustin Jacoby, like someone 13 through
Yeah.
15 next, and really get his chance to break through. And I'm not saying he could be a champion, but in a division like this that doesn't have a ton of differentiating skill sets or elite skill sets, I wouldn't be surprised at all if he gets a couple quick knockouts and he finds himself at 10th, at light heavyweight here in 2 or 3 more
Yeah.
fights. I just like what I'm seeing. It seems like he put that rough debut aside. And again, with that amazing team that he has, you're going to find success. And it seems like he's finding it. I like Blackjack Carlos Ulberg right now, Noah.
Oh, that's his nickname? I didn't even realize that. That's
Is it
pretty dope nickname.
Black Jag? Sorry, Jag. Yep.
Black Jag. Okay. I kind of
Yep.
like Blackjack better, but I guess for an Australian, it might not make as much sense as like a Texan or something. But, no, but you mentioned the camp, and I mean that's a big thing. I mean, you see the improvements in his game, and it has to be, of course, credited to his own improvements he's made. But he's been doing it in a camp that has so much championship pedigree at this point, with Izzy, with Volk, even
And their coaches, man.
France is there.
Yeah.
And those are great guys to surround yourself with who have been in some of those bigger moments than he's been yet. And yeah, he looks better each time out. I definitely like the guy. I don't exactly know where he goes from here. I do love the Dustin Jacoby fight. I think that would be a terrific fight to kind of match up with him. But Dominic, even if he maybe, 32 years old, maybe he's just going to kind of slowly go up. I don't know. But having that relation or that connection to guys like Volkanovski, Adesanya, KKF, that's going to help.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not saying it's going to give him, extra favors, but even if it's so much as being on the same card as those guys, that sometimes they like to be on the same card as one another. That's going to help him in a big way get his name out there.
Yes.
And if he puts on a showing like he did here against Ihor Potieria, I mean, it might just fast track him quicker than even I can imagine right now.
Yep, 100%.
And he's in the right division to do it, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the top two divisions are what you're talking about when you're saying divisions that feel like they need more contenders. It's heavyweight and light heavyweight feels like we need some more. I mean, light heavyweight's in an interesting spot because there's so many different fresh matchups at the top.
At the top,
but the same problem lies in both, where it's the further you go down and even into the unranked pool, it's pretty weak.
Yes, absolutely.
How about Matt Brown, Dominic? I'm going to go to him next to your main event of the ESPN prelim. So shout out to Matt Brown and Court McGee for being put in that placement, because we all know after everybody was talking about Drew Dober and Matt Frivola, we kind of realized that ESPN, when they do the prelims on ESPN, that's kind of a big spot there in that main event.
Is.
More people are ultimately going to see it, even though the main card for this was on ABC. For example, more people going to see it on ESPN, that main event, than the actual pay-per-view. But shout out to Matt Brown. He tied the UFC record for knockouts with Derek Lewis at 13. And Dominic, he even went to Twitter and said, I don't know how we'll do it, but I will fight Derek Lewis to determine the winner of that record. He was calling out Conor McGregor after. This guy was really feeling himself after this win, and I loved every bit of it. He's an Ohio guy. We got to see him fight in Columbus. He came up short in a very close decision with Bryan Barberena. And you saw Barberena was able to kind of use that win to get him like a big fight with RDA and stuff like that. So for Matt Brown, who even with the mixed record, like you go back, this guy when Robbie Lawler was champion, Matt Brown was like one fight away from fighting for a title before I believe he lost to Robbie Lawler. So he's a guy who has had both these guys. The story here, Dominic, is the kind of demons these two guys have had to overcome to even get here, to even have a career in anything. Both these guys were hanging on by a thread in their own lives at one point in time, and they were able to find something in MMA, in fighting, that it was able to be an outlet and be kind of a source of healing, which is so strange to say in a sport that is ultimately damaging you, that they found that kind of personal, internal healing they needed and an outlet to become pretty productive fighters overall, And I want to give you, Dominic, this quote from Matt Brown in his post-fight.
Oh, I hope it's what I was literally just trying to think of one.
So I wrote it down. He said, the worst part about being in here is that in about 30 seconds, I've got to step out of here.
Yep. Oh my.
They're not.
That's
There
a
may
hot
not
mic
be
at the end of the year.
that.
Whatever the
That's
number.
almost as cold as like that Robbie Lawler line where he's like, Tom, what was it? Where he said something about taking his soul. That wasn't in the cage. It was like on an interview where he was like,
because if I hurt him, I wasn't taking his neck,
What were you going to take?
his soul.
yeah, Matt Brown. Shout out to him. I mean, it was a perfect way to kind of showcase himself here at this point in time of his career. Don't believe you'll be seeing him fight Derek Lewis or Conor McGregor next. Dominic, do you think that kind of matchup is in his future?
No, absolutely not. But I have a feeling he's going to want to keep fighting until he can break that record, Noah. So he's 42. He's got what, like 30 UFC fights, but he's been pretty competitive in a lot of these fights. So, I mean, I don't really see a reason to call quits anytime too soon. And he clearly loves the game. I mean, if that quote doesn't tell you how much he loves fighting, I don't know what will get it through your head. So man, wouldn't that be crazy? What a moment if Matt Brown can take that all-time record and hold that for however much longer. That'd be something.
It snuck up on me. I had no idea.
I had no
he
idea.
Was like near the top. I mean,
Yeah.
I think he had. I believe Robbie Fox put out a tweet that said he had like 46 fights and only 7 went to a decision in his entire career. So that's a pretty crazy stat when you consider he's 42 now and still able to deliver those blows and not necessarily. He's not a guy that gets knocked out all that often.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, very good showing for him. Dominic, what else you got? Anything else on the rest of this card?
So I'm actually going to take one that maybe people weren't expecting, but I have to because it's another division that desperately needs talent and needs people. It's women's bantamweight, Tainara Lisboa. Okay, she debuted.
Interesting.
And it's just a quick little hitter here because I know she beat Jessica Rose Clark, a veteran, but she's really been on a rough skid. So say what you want about the win, but we have a multi-time Muay Thai world champion here in Lisboa. And not only is she good on the feet, then she submitted Jessica Rose Clark in the 3rd round. I just feel like she really was able to showcase a lot of her game. And to do that in your debut, I think says a lot. In a division like women's 135 that needs new faces and needs new talent, I really hope we can have something here with Lisboa. I'm not calling for a championship or a title contender, but damn it, someone needs to make noise in this division. And it's sad that someone on the very first fight on a prelim of UFC Fight Night in Charlotte is someone that I'm saying could make that noise. So I'm just going to try and bank on that. And hopefully in the future of this show, we're talking about Lisboa more than just this one time. So just a quick shout.
Yeah, I'll give a quick shout to the other women's fight on the card, Dominic, because technical decision here, split decision. Mandy Bohm, Bohm, got a split decision win over Yeon Kim. Dominic, I said this was going to be my web redemption moment with Yeon Kim. Talk about a complete egg on my face. And this fight was, how do you say, a mess?
Shit show? Yeah.
Yeah, it was an absolute shit show, a mess. Every bit of it. I mean, every bit of it. You had both. I mean, here's the problem, right? Mandy was on the receiving end of 2 illegal blows from Yeon Kim. First one happens at the end of the 2nd round, and it was after the bell. I was surprised when the ref took me. And I even text Dom, and I said, Dominic, they're trying to do it to her again. I said, they're trying to screw her because, I still stand by that Priscilla Cachoeira loss was a robbery.
Yeah.
Well, 3rd round comes, Dominic, she does it again. She does it again. And I had a hat on, threw it off my head. I mean, my parlay was already busted with her on it. But I just threw it off my head because I was like, this is agonizing. That's someone who is 3-6 in the UFC, who is in such desperate need of a win to keep their UFC career going, that you mess up one time, okay, but out of frustration you do it again.
I feel like she threw away that fight.
Yeah, she did. I mean, the scorecards tell you that she lost 2 points because he took away a point after the first one. Second one happens. Mandy's not able to continue. I saw some people kind of going after Mandy for saying she was pulling a Sterling and blah, 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 blah. I
Yeah.
am in no place to judge that. She was on the receiving end of 2 illegal blows.
Yeah.
That's on Ji-Young Kim. Mandy's not really at fault here. I saw some people saying both should be cut. Like, why should Mandy be cut from the UFC?
Right.
I mean, she's really the victim here. It was just a shit show because Ji-Young Kim does this. And then we have a referee who I saw the commentary was really dogging this guy, but I don't necessarily think he did anything wrong. It was just very comical how, like, the fight gets stopped. We don't really know what's happening. It takes forever for him to actually call off the fight. This is not a ref that we normally see, by the way.
No.
And then he goes to the judges' scorecards, but then he takes away a second point from Ji-Young Kim, which then forces the judges doing the scorecards to redo their scorecards. And you got Bruce Buffer out there. It looks like that meme with like all the math, like kind of in your face. They're like, oh my God, what's going on here? It was just a complete mess. It took forever. Luckily, it did not completely ruin this really hot crowd we had here in Charlotte. Record-setting crowd, by the way, Dominic. The highest attended fight night in UFC history. So shout out to Charlotte. I wish it would have Nashville, but it sounds like the UFC might have made the right choice. And Nashville, maybe we'll see you in August. But complete mess. Likely the end of Ji-Young Kim's UFC career. And, I mean, what a way to go out. I mean, at least make it memorable, right? If you're – and who wants to go out not being remembered? Ji-Young Kim apparently doesn't.
Touche.
I mean, we could honestly – all these fights feel like they kind of have something to go into.
I mean, dude,
but Dominic,
Bryan
if you
Battle.
don't have anything else – yeah, okay. I was going to at least give him a little shout.
Just something.
I mean, 13 seconds, right? Or
in Charlotte.
Was it, well, 14 seconds, I guess, was the official time. I think they said it was the sixth fastest knockout in UFC history or something like that. He gets a knockout over Gabe Green. That was the most ungate performance I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, Gabe Green never does that. And he decided, let's bang. And boy, did he pay the price. I mean, I give him props for going for it, but Bryan Battle was not going to be denied. Blonde hair and all. Man was looking like the real Slim Shady in there. And the only unfortunate part, Dominic, was he couldn't even get a bonus. He missed weight. He weighed in at 173 pounds, so could not get a bonus. But I think that moment, being in front of his friends and family in his hometown in Charlotte, meant more to him. Well, I'm sure 50,000 would have been pretty nice too. But I think the moment was still, he was emotional. Hopefully next time out he can make weight and we don't have to have any sort of caveat to his performance. What did you think?
No, I mean, what else can you say about a 14-second fight? I'll say, man, though, like, you know, he won tough and he's, I think, 3-1 ever since then in the UFC. The only loss was to, I forget who it was. Grapple heavy fight. So, I mean, I'm not one to say what his future could be, but he's done well for himself ever since. We'll see what he does next time.
Well, he's sure been more active than our other tough winner from
Ricky.
that season. What's old Ricky doing, man?
Yeah.
Ricky Torcias, has he fought since? I think he's fought one time since then. I don't know. I haven't heard anything about him.
War Ricky. Well, another War Ricky.
But I'll also mention, Douglas Silva, de Andrade, and Cody Stamann, Dominic. I actually thought this was a great fight. I thought it was a very fun fight. And I was kind of surprised they didn't get the fight of the night bonus. There was no fight of the night bonus given, just a bunch of performance of the night bonuses. So I was a little... Oh, Bryan Battle actually did get his performance of the night bonus according to Wikipedia. So...
Well, I saw someone talked about him to Dana, and Dana said, I'm going to give him $50,000 anyway. So I don't know if it's like an official bonus, but it's one of those Dana White, bonuses.
I didn't realize Dana was at the post-fight presser. Usually he's not been doing a lot of the fight nights. I need to go watch that, evidently. But I thought de Andrade Stamann could have got the fight of the night bonus. Am I crazy? Was that fight not as good as I remember it? I thought it was fun.
No, in terms of the fights that went the distance, that was definitely the best one. And I just want to say quickly, I don't know if you heard this, Cody Stamann's challenging the ruling of that fight to try and get it overturned.
Yeah, it ain't going to work out for him, but I understand his frustration for sure.
Yeah. when they stood
And
him up
and
after
as
the
someone,
illegal shot.
as someone who bet on Andrade, like obviously it benefited me that it got stood back up. But I understand the frustration. That was obviously wrong.
Yeah.
Like the ref should
Yeah.
not have stood them back up. That's someone not understanding their job in that moment. We had a couple of those with refs on this card, and you're just kind of like, man, as great as the crowd as we're getting, like some of this stuff's a little feels like,
Yeah.
come on, guys, you need to be a little bit better about understanding the rules at this point in time. But yeah, I a lot of fighters have challenged rulings like this in the past, and I mean these state athletic commissions, Dominic, they basically will never overturn whatever. They stand by their refs and their judges 100%. So I don't blame him though for being frustrated. But you know, Dominic, when he watches this fight back, he's probably going to be also frustrated at himself for round 3 because I don't know why. I understand he's a very good wrestler, but if he gets back to his feet after really having Andrade on the ropes and knocking him down and having him wobbled, I think he finishes. I mean, he was he was close to being out.
Yeah.
And then Cody, it seemed at first he was kind of going for sort of a ground and pound finish, but then Dominic, he started just kind of controlling him and just wrote it out. And you have to think he must have thought he was up or at least had won one of the 2 previous rounds. But again, I understand challenge. You know, you're frustrated because the way that first round got kind of taken from you because for all we knew that was how that first round was going to end, and maybe he would have got it because of that. But since it didn't go that way, you have to have the wherewithal to in that third round understand the moment that like you can't let the judges potentially take it away from you. You had a chance there to really put him out. It's not like he was the fresher guy. He was. I mean, he looked like he was one more clean shot from being done. But we will move on from there to Bellator 296, Dominic. So Fabian Edwards ultimately gets the unanimous decision win over Gegard Mousasi. Dominic, I will just mention, I said on Friday I wasn't going to be able to watch this card live, which I was not able to. Somehow completely avoided spoilers for the co-main and main event of this card. Completely.
Good.
Because I checked Twitter when I got home from work, and I saw some of your tweets of the event. So I avoided the top 3 fights. I didn't see
Lima.
the third fight. Yeah, Lima's fight. So I avoided spoilers for those. But when I got on, I think I saw you post where Kane Musa had been knocked out and stuff.
Whew, yeah.
Yeah. So and unfortunately, when Showtime airs a card, it's not like Prime or I think ESPN Plus, where as soon as it's done, you can just rewatch it right in the library. So I had to wait till 9 a.m. Saturday morning when they were showing it again on the Showtime channel on the live TV portion of the app. I had to wait till they were airing it at 9 a.m. So I had to wake my little ass up after being up till like 2 a.m. the night before to watch it. But ultimately, Dominic, I mean, the card was what it was, I guess is the way to put it. I did not get to check out a lot of the prelims on YouTube because of this, so apologies. But as far as the main card goes, it was what it was. And the main event was especially meh. I mean, it was kind of a meh fight. Fabian Edwards does get the biggest win of his career, though. He does it via unanimous decision. Just going to ask you straight up, was this win enough to secure him a title shot against Johnny Eblen?
I mean, yeah, it was. But it's not like he blew me away. The fight was just kind of whatever, like Noah was saying. If anything, and this was a discussion topic on Friday, what are we going to be saying about Gegard come Monday? And so to me, this looked like Gegard had lost a step. That's what this fight was to me. Lost a step. Maybe didn't even fight necessarily the way I thought he should have. He didn't really try to offensively grapple and wrestle too much. And Fabian was just bigger, stronger, faster. He landed the better shots on the feet. He defended well. Again, there weren't like any big moments in this fight, but I walk away with more takeaways on the negative side for Gegard than positives for Fabian. But he absolutely does deserve it. I mean, a 3-fight win streak, you beat a former champ, you're number one now. They did the face off with Eblen. Like, it's already set in stone. They're doing it in September. They already booked the fight and everything in Ireland. So, it is what it is. He's going to try and cement that family legacy. That'd be a huge storyline for him and Leon. But yeah, what are your thoughts? Because I was heavily just on Gegard negative takeaways more so than anything.
Gosh. Now, I'll be honest. I didn't have to take away positive or negative either way. Like,
Just
yeah,
nothing.
it's another loss for Gegard. Yeah, I really felt nothing after this fight.
Yeah.
And, and I don't think this is a hot take. I've seen some of the people more critical of high-level MMA, the ones that, are more critical of a lot of what we see. They have definitely been saying this. Bellator, more often than not, does it not feel like you get a lot of that? Just meh.
Yeah.
Like, compared to like PFL and one, like it feels like more often than not, Bellator's just kind of doesn't really ever over exceed the expectations.
If anything, they come in under exceeding when they have really big events, even,
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
That's like, I was looking at their main events. For like the last year. Like, if you go back to last year, I was like looking at all their main events. I'm like, okay, what was the best Bellator main event of last year? Like the best fight.
Mm-hmm.
Truthfully, Dominic, I think I came to the conclusion it was Chris Cyborg's title defense. I forget the name of who she fought. It was who
Blenko.
Sarah McMahon just beat. Yeah, Arlene Blenko. And that was a 50-45 decision across the board. I was like, man, that's
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not a really high bar because PFL's had some great fights, One's had some great fights. Bellator was good for some good fights every now and then, but it does seem like sometimes, and we're never gonna stop watching Bellator. I enjoy watching it. It's very rarely bad in terms of like top to bottom. I very rarely walk away feeling like it's terrible. But it does feel a lot. It feels like kind of a time spender a lot of times. Like, it doesn't really feel like it ever enhances my weekend or get me excited to watch the next one. It's and I think ultimately it's stale. It's just kind of stale, and that's why I'm kind of hoping that we get a sell here soon so we can freshen things up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, what even more can be said about that? Really, that's the story of the card, but especially when you have a pretty important main event on paper, number one versus number two, former champion, all this, and then you get the fight. It's like, damn, kind of sucks.
Yeah, and then you set up and that's going to be the next title fight, and I am excited to see that title fight, but I don't have a ton of hope for it to be like a great fight. Fabian did get the biggest win of his career. He proved he belongs at worst here because this was the win he kind of needed to show that. So I definitely think that's a positive for him. And for Gegard, losing 2 in a row after being such a good champion and such a high-level guy in this promotion for a long time is concerning. To me, Dominic, it just – that round one went – yeah, if you watched round one of this fight, you knew how the rest of the fight was going to go. Like, it was literally that for 5 rounds, it felt like to me. So for Gegard, that is concerning. And, let's kind of stick with him because he did say in the lead up to this fight that he wanted to make one more run to a title before retiring. That was kind of his goal here. So we kind of know we're sort of teetering on the end of his career. The end is in sight. With this loss, is that enough of a setback to cut that last run short completely? Like, is there any doubt in your mind that we may never see him again?
I think his name's still big enough for Bellator to try and continue pushing him, but I don't think that necessarily means he's going to like win these fights and get another title shot. He could beat another, he could beat a Vanderford again or a John Salter or something. Lima's officially up at 185. They could run it back since he's more of a legit middleweight now, but I don't know. The name value right now at this point after that performance, I feel like can only take him so far. It helps him because he is with a smaller, quote unquote, in Bellator. But I don't think we see him fight for a title again. No, I could see him fight again though, but I don't think for a title.
Yeah, you look at the rest of those rankings though at middleweight, and that's one thing to his credit is there's not a ton of competition around
No.
him. If he gets back on track with another win, and Eblen gets a win over Edwards, or even vice versa, like Anatoly Tolkov's a good fighter. Dalton Rosta is a very interesting prospect. But then after that, Dominic, number 5 is Austin Vanderford. Number 6,
Yeah.
Aaron Jeffrey. By the way, didn't Aaron Jeffrey knock out Austin Vanderford in like a minute? What are we doing here,
Yes.
Bellator? Wasn't that just like 6 months ago? I mean, come on. Anyways, number 7, Lorenz Larkin. Number 8, Romero Cotton, another interesting prospect. I mean, number 10 is Costello Van Steenis, and he didn't even fight didn't he fight at welterweight?
No, Diego came up. So Diego,
Okay,
I'm sorry, Douglas Lima will be number 10. Yeah.
Okay. I was like, damn, I didn't realize one of them was up or down here. So
Yeah.
I just don't. I feel like Gegard could get a win over one of those guys there. Maybe he fights an Anatoly Tolkov or whatever. If he wins that, I could see him getting another title fight.
Yeah, man, you're very right. When you look at the state of this division, the rankings, the people that he's already fought, I don't know. The 2-fight skid, a title fight and a title eliminator. We'll see what Bellator does with him. I mean, he's 37, so it's not insanely old, but that was his 60th professional fight on Friday. So I don't know. It'd be cool to see him fight again, but like I kind of said, and I'll just double down on it as we get into the rest, I don't think a title fight or title in general comes for Gegard the rest of his career.
Let's move on into the rest. The co-main event saw one of our final first-round matchups of the lightweight Grand Prix, where Brent Primus, Dominic, at 38 years young, got the unanimous decision win over Mandar Barnawi. Did see some pronunciation differences. I say Barnawi, that's more natural to me, but Big John was saying Barnawi, I believe was how he was saying it. So I'll try to be mindful of that. But Primus gets the win. I was very surprised, Dominic, by this result. Not necessarily that Primus won, but I was surprised at how these guys kind of scratched and clawed their way to a decision. And to be honest, after my little spiel there in the previous fight about how Bellator so often is meh, doesn't give you a whole lot, this fight was actually pretty fun. I actually thought this was a great back and forth fight for the most part. You had a lot of momentum swings. Both guys at times felt like they could be out.
No, it almost gave me vibes of was it the 2021 or was it 2022? I don't remember. It was D'Elia and Capoloza or somebody where it was like a 5-round fight. The first 3 were just absolutely insane, but then the last 2 they couldn't keep that pace anymore. That's kind of what this one was. Just nonstop scratch and claw between these 2 guys, and then the last 2 rounds, while still good, it was a good fight. They severely slowed down, and I think that was kind of a bit of a problem from a viewing perspective. But dude, I mean, for Brent Primus here, he was a massive underdog, pulls off this win, and it don't get easier for him because now he has to fight Usman Nurmagomedov. So that's a tough stretch here if you're Brent Primus and you want to come out of this Grand Prix. But here he is. Maybe he can make the impossible happen. No, the fight was fun though, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I do expect him to be a pretty massive underdog. Dare I say Usman may be close to that minus 1,000 again like he was for Benson Henderson. But he made a much better account of himself than I thought he may, going up against a guy who had the crowd behind him, who has such a high finishing rate, younger, more explosive, better hands. Primus held up on the feet even. I thought he was getting some good shots in there too. So overall, pretty good fight. And for considering this was kind of the redheaded stepchild matchup of this first round of the Grand Prix, Dominic, I think I think it's been the best fight we've gotten so far.
Yeah, competitive, tit for tat for 5 straight rounds. Definitely has been.
Yeah, because you look at Usman kind of squashed Bendo, and then you had that fight with Chablis that was and Musayev that was just terrible.
Oh yeah, the broken ribs. Yeah,
we still got AJ McGee coming up, so hopefully that one will also deliver, and we can really move forward with a really solid Final Four here in the Grand Prix. But Dominic, do you want to take anything else?
I mean, I guess I'll just hit Lima real fast because this was a fight he needed to win. I don't know. I think I might have said something like that on Friday. I also didn't know he was fully committing to going up to middleweight because I know he experimented against Mousasi. We watched that fight. He tried to become a champ, but then he went back down. But he had lost 4 straight, and while the fight wasn't anything great, Costello looked great in the first round, and then it just felt like the experience and the high-level competition of Lima pay dividends in rounds 2 and 3. The veteran came out on top, and he got a good win. He needed a bounce back, but again, age and fight years combined here for Douglas. I don't necessarily know how far he can make a run at 185 pounds, but he needed a bounce back win, and that is what he got.
I thought he looked pretty good here, but again, you're kind of right. It's like, do I necessarily think it's like written off any concerns I have about his future outlook? No, but he got the win he needed to. He was an underdog, and I thought the way he looked in rounds 2 and 3 showed me like, okay, he still has some left in the tank. Like he's not, not he's not in the range of being like a guy who can't even quite cut it in Bellator anymore. Like, is he ever going to be at that elite level he was for so long? Probably not. But Costello, a ranked fighter, he is definitely capable of being a rank or welterweight in Bellator.
Yes, 100%. Couldn't agree more.
We'll move on to Blazin Bets, Dominic. How about this, huh? You excited? You excited to talk about Blazin Bets, Dom?
Yes, I am, Noah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm excited. Much more excited than I was last week. Not because of the result or anything, but since you asked about the result, Dominic, I got the win this week. So big ups to me. I believe I went positive 1.54 units. And Dominic, do you know what your final tally was?
Yeah, mine's super easy, no? It was -5 even. 5 bets, 0 and 5. So for those counting, we've only done Blazin Bets for 2 weeks, but 2 of the last 3 weeks betting for me have been goose eggs, combined 0 and 13. So things are looking good for Dom.
You did have the unfortunate crutch of 2 of your parlays taken out by a single taken off. Rodriguez not able to make the weight. And based off of the way he was apparently looking in the lead up, Dominic, if he had made it to the scales and weighed in and still went the fight night, that might have been looking pretty good for you. But yeah, that's unfortunate when something like that happens. You get your bets kind of stripped away, half your bets, and then you have to kind of try to find some other things. Unfortunate, Dominic. Anytime, you know what? And I'm not in no place to make observations about your betting activity, but it feels like when you start going heavy on the live bets, it's like I swear it never ends up working out for you. It's like a sink. It's like you're on the Titanic and you're just shuffling chairs as the boat's sinking.
Yeah, no, let's talk about that really fast here, the live bet. So I would have only had 3 plays because I rearranged the 2 that fell off. So I combined them, Morono and Rodriguez Garry over 1.5. That fight ended in under 3 minutes, by the way. Chase Sherman money line live at +175. Why did I do it? Your guess is as good as mine. And then the one for Bellator, this one's great, Noah, here. A parlay, Costello Vancinas money line. He lost to Douglas Lima pretty convincingly, all in Primus Barnawi inside the distance. So we went 0 for 2 on that +138 one. You know, I'm trying to make up for lost units. And there was a time where I was sitting watching the fights and I'm like, why did I just do that with Chase Sherman? Because I'm pretty sure Noah was going to beat me anyway. So all that did was just rub it into me on a personal level even more. Just very, very dumb, awful week. It's been an all-time bad year, but we keep fighting because I'm not trying to eat hot wings. So we keep fighting.
And Dominic, we're just tied right now. It's 1-1.
Yeah, of course.
Next week is a new week.
Yeah.
We have a big card coming up. Dern Hill. Going to be a lot of activity, I'm sure.
Yeah, super loaded card.
I will just mention I went 3-2 on singles, and then I went 1-1 on my 2 parlays. Really, my saving grace here, Dominic, was the the chances I took on some of the plus odds was where I
Yep.
hit. It was the stuff
Yep.
that I thought was safe and the money that was missing for me. Those two misses in the singles being to get Garry over 2.5, Dominic. That finish in the first round was a complete surprise for yours truly. And then Means Morono fight goes the distance. I kind of that's one where I look back and I'm like, very high level bet by me. And I just the value that is not there at minus 150. If it was plus on the plus side, then it's
Yeah.
probably more worth your while. But at minus 150, considering if you look at especially with Tim Means how he had been, in the lead up here, and even Morono to a lesser extent, like you just a lot of decisions in their career, but more recently for especially Tim Means, not as much. So just kind of ill advised at that price. But Matt Brown plus 3.5. I finally got. I mean, I'm sure I
Yeah.
got another one of my. Actually, no. I think last week was the first week that we did
Yeah. Yeah.
the spread.
Spreads.
I think so. I think that's my first spread bet to hit this year. So Matt Brown plus 3.5 at minus 145. Didn't even have to worry about a decision, Dominic. Matt Brown said, "Let me get this boy out of here real quick." So shout out to him. The one that was my favorite play of the weekend ended up being a fucking sweat, man. Carl Williams by decision or Chase Sherman by KO, TKO, DQ. Dominic, I do not recommend for those that get stressed easy in the fight. I do not recommend this double chance or double method of prop because, man, I didn't know at times if I should be rooting for Carl Williams, Chase Sherman. Because as soon as Williams' fucking leg looked like it was done, I was like, come on, Vanilla Gorilla, let's knock this guy's ass out.
Yeah.
And then when he wasn't really doing a whole lot, I'm like, come on, Carl, just survive. Get to the scorecard. But I was going back and forth throughout these 15 minutes. It was not a fun viewing experience, but we got it done. I can tell you what else wasn't a very fun viewing experience. Douglas Silva de Andrade money line. Looked like we were going to have this one in the bag, and then round 3 comes and Cody Stamann nearly puts him out. But thank you, Cody, for really honing in on that wrestling and not going for the finish because de Andrade pulls out the victory at plus 130. Parlays, I went 0-2 on this parlay. Just a gross parlay this one was, Dominic. G on Kim money line, and then Jessica Rose Clark plus 3.5. I mean, what the fuck was I thinking there? That's a brutal one at plus 128. But then the other parlay does end up hitting Jailton Almeida by finish, Ian Garry money line, and all I come out to plus 1.4. Last week, very close. Dominic edges me out. Battle of the Titan week. This week, I come out with a statement victory, and hopefully this positive momentum can carry me into building up a lead here on Dominic in the Blazin Bets series. Anything you'd like to add, Dominic, before we move on?
I just want to say that I can only hope that moving forward, if I am to lose, I hope it's because we're both in the positive. That's all. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, that's a good point. With that, Dominic, let's end the show with the only segment we know how, a little segment we like to call closing statements. So, Dominic, what do you have for me? Closing statements to send off into a very, very good week.
Yeah, so it was on my brain all day today because I was outside at the Mother's Day cookout playing some yard games, and specifically Can Jam and Cornhole No. So the question's simple. What is that go-to favorite yard game of yours? What is maybe your best yard game, Noah? If you're at a cookout, you're at a graduation party, what are you hopping on first? What are you most excited to? Knowing you're going somewhere with yard games, what are you hoping is there to play?
I'm an absolute sniper. Call me Chris Kyle on the cornhole boards, Dom. Cornhole,
Okay.
I am an absolute sniper. I'm very good at cornhole. That would be my answer. I don't play a ton of yard games. Like Can Jam, I like okay, but never been that big on it. But cornhole's been the one. What is there some other games I'm missing? Those are the only two I think I've ever actually really participated in. If you're talking about those kind of games, what kind of ones have you seen?
So I think it's called what is it called? I know it around these parts as hillbilly golf, where you have the 3 rings, the balls with the string, you throw them, you try and land them on the rings.
Yeah.
We've got Beersby. I don't know if you've ever played Beersby. You have the stick, you have the can or the bottle of beer on top. You try and knock it off with the frisbee. That's a pretty fun one. We're really getting rednecky here, I noticed at the end of the show. But what else is there? Those are probably the main 4 that I would play. Yeah. Those are the other 2 fresh in mind, I guess. But I know there's like spike ball. Has anybody ever played that, where there's like the mini trampoline? I've seen it on TV and at the beach. And then you hit the ball. That looks really fun to play, but I think I'd suck ass at it. If anybody's ever played that, let me know. Kind of rambling here, Noah.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I feel like Dominic was hoping I'd throw him a life preserver there, and I just didn't.
I was drowning a little
into the deep water. But no, I was going to ask you about Beersby or whatever the hell you called it. Is the point that when the beer gets knocked off that someone has to chug it?
No, so okay, let me think, because it's been a minute. So it's like a PVC pipe, and it's in a bucket with like weighted rocks or concrete, whatever, so it doesn't like fall. It's an empty can or bottle on top. But the point is that you're supposed to catch it if it gets knocked off to prevent the most points for the other team, but you can only catch it with one hand, because in your second hand is a beer, ideally. So that's kind of the point of the game. It's pretty fun. A little dangerous, but it's fun.
Okay. If I'm playing a yard game, Dominic, I want to feel a little bit of fear, a little bit of danger. You ain't getting no hick yard game without there being somebody's life on the line, more than likely. So,
Yeah.
We created a new one for 4th of July 2 years ago now. We were out in BFE, Dominic, here in the Findlay boonies, if you will, kind of in the Findlay area, but not Findlay, like really boonies. Like, I'm pretty sure my buddy, the house we were at, closest neighbor, like a mile down the road, he went to a high school that had like, I want to say 40 people in the graduating class, I'm talking like cornfields everywhere. So we were doing 4th of July at his house. He's got big cornfields and stuff around his house. And they always shoot off fireworks because there's nobody around, so there's no like worry about that, We decided that we thought it'd be fun to play firework tag. Just started shooting. We just started shooting fireworks at one another, and it was all fun and games until someone got hit in the dick, and then it wasn't fun anymore.
Yeah, honestly, I thought you were going to say you were shooting fireworks out of your ass, so I guess I'd kind of prefer firework tag. No.
Yeah, that's one thing I don't. That's one place I don't ever want to put anything in, near, or around as long as I shall live. So
especially with flames and sparks.
Yeah. So Dominic, I just want to know, what is your mother's favorite place to eat for either Mother's Day, her birthday, weekend, whatever it is? Where does she? What's her? If you asked her, what is her go-to restaurant, what do you think she'd say?
Oh, that's actually a really good question. I'm trying to think here. Maybe like, it's nothing too crazy. There's probably 2 things. And they're not really fancy or anything, but maybe like an Olive Garden / Fazoli's, like an Italian, not necessarily fancy, but good Italian. Or she can never go wrong with Applebee's. My mother loves Applebee's, getting the boneless wings and maybe a margarita, depending on the time and when it is. I think if I were to ask her, it would be one of those 3 places, I think. Yeah.
Dominic, we are this closing statement is so showing our like lineage, our geography location, because like, I mean, I love all the restaurants you just mentioned. Man, there is this growing amount of people, and I think they must be probably in like the metropolitan, like more of the bigger cities type people, who all think everything you just said is like shitty food. Like Olive Garden and Applebee's gets a ton of hate. Fazoli's, I don't even think enough people know what it is to even have an opinion on the matter. But no, I'm just kidding. But What I think, man, my mom's she's an interesting one, Dom, because she definitely has her places that she eats at more consistently than probably her like go to for like a because I asked you to question and put it all encompassing, but if it's like a Mother's Day or her birthday or a holiday or something, she's probably, if she had her choice, and a lot of this is based on where she's ate at recently, but I would probably, I might guess Texas Roadhouse.
Oh
I
yeah,
think
that's a
that'd
good
be
one.
a go-to.
Mm.
Um, but she loves Olive Garden. The place she eats at more than anywhere else is B-Dubs. To be honest, that's where they go all the time. They go all the so. And my mom never gets wings. She likes getting like the platter, the appetizer platter type deal. Or she'll do a chicken wrap. So um, yeah, those are like she eats at that more often. Or also, you ever been to Bullwinkle's in Miami, Dom?
Yes, I have. Not as enough as much as others, but
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, she is a massive fan of the ribs. So those are some options there. But we did eat at Bar Louie just because she came to visit me, and I get to make the calls. I'm. Wait, what's the quote from Captain Phillips? I'm the captain
I'm the
now.
captain
That's what I
now.
had to say to her.
Yeah.
Yeah. But my name's Noah Baker. That's Dominic Slee. We are but just two of the below average Joes, and we'll see you guys on Friday.